Welcome to the Hockey Writers Maple Leafs Lounge, a weekly show from our Toronto Maple Leafs writing crew, bringing you the latest news, rumors, trades, player grades, prospects, and much more. From training camp to the playoffs, from draft day to the trade deadline, our team covers everything that happens with the blue and white. Come on in and pull up a chair. Welcome to the Maple Leafs Lounge.
Hello, everybody. I'm Kevin Armstrong, joined as always by my good friends Peter Baracchini, Alex Hobson, and Jim, the old Prof Parsons, to chat about all things Maple Leafs. And this one's going to be interesting. In Canada, we're in the middle of a political showdown. The election is ongoing. There was a debate this week, but unlike those politicians, we're actually going to talk about some real good stuff, and we're going to have some real good answers and some real good, honest debate. And we're still going to be friends at the end of the day, too, because it's okay to have different angles. So we're going to be talking Mikheyev. We're going to be talking Subban. We're going to be talking Hyman, Clone, and Dubas as well. That's your rundown. So let's start it up with the news that broke. If you were watching the Blue Jays game, which I think everyone's been watching the Blue Jays game lately, respect Toronto. That's what we're all about. There's a thing we should say with the hockey writers. We were told to not talk baseball until they make the playoffs, but after that run, we got a little bit of a caveat. So go Jays, go. We're behind you. Okay, I digress. Mikheyev, news broke during the Thursday night Blue Jays game from Elliot Friedman's Twitter that Ilya Mikheyev did in fact request a trade at the end of last season. And the twist here is that the Maple Leafs flat out denied that request, and they want him to be a bigger part of this upcoming team. So we got two conflicting stories that came out of this. Peter was very much in favor of Alex was very much in favor of keeping Mikheyev. I'm more on the other side, that it's okay to let him go. So the debate is, let him go or keep him. We're going to start with Alex with his points on why Mikheyev should stay.
Yeah, so obviously Ilya Mikheyev was not a productive player last year, and I think that kind of played a part in why fans had a little bit of a bad taste in their mouth after he requested a trade, because obviously, and you get that feeling every time your team, someone on your team requests a trade. You're like, okay, if you don't want to be here, then go. But the way I see it, Ilya Mikheyev in 2019-20, before he had that wrist injury where he had his wrist sliced open by the skate blade, he was a very productive player. He had 23 points in 39 games. He was on pace for probably 40 to 45 points. And he didn't have it last year. I think we all saw that. But the way that I see it, if I'm Ilya Mikheyev, I see Kyle Dubas telling me that he wants me to stick around, that he sees me being a part of the plans for next season. And I think back to when Kyle Dubas spent time in the hospital with Ilya Mikheyev. And, you know, in your Mikheyev shoes, you're in a foreign country just learning the language. It must have meant the world to see your general manager go out of his way to not only spend time at the hospital, but he even bought him some shirts and some clothes and some other personal items just to keep with him while he recovered. And I take those variables, I take the fact that he's in a contract year, and I take the fact that there really isn't that much depth on the left side this year. I think Mikheyev is poised for a big bounce back season. And I think what a lot of people forget is that while he wasn't productive offensively last year, he was getting his chances, and he's also a very, very good defensive player. And he's probably the fastest player on the team, the only one to beat Connor McDavid in a foot race. So, I think he could contribute this year, and I think he's really got to use his Dubas telling him that he wants him to be a part of the team as motivation. I think he's going to come back stronger than ever this year, hopefully with a little bit more of a healed wrist. So there's my take.
Peter, positives on keeping Mikheyev.
I mean, Alex just nailed everything on the head right there. I mean, good defensively, solid penalty killer. And again, I guess the main sticking point is this is the only other player that could keep up with Connor McDavid as one of the fastest players in the league. I mean, Maple Leafs have skilled players, but none of them of which to keep up with the likes of McDavid. But at the same time, you know, it's interesting how everything unfolded. I mean, I would have thought that, you know, given the fact that it is a contract year, given the fact that a space opened up with Zach Hyman gone, Ilya Mikheyev I remember when they first signed him, his agent, Dan Milstein, compared him to Zach Hyman. And there was also that talk that maybe, there was that potential right there, being that 200-foot player, playing all situations. And it just didn't really amount to that. So I think there's that positive going forward, that if he puts his mind to it, battles for that spot and takes over Nick Ritchie or even Michael Bunting, and he comes up with that top line, top six role on the left side, it's going to work out. And he played with Mitch Marner and John Tavares in their pregame before the bubble last season, and he scored a goal against Montreal before they bowed out to the Columbus Blue Jackets, and he looked great with them in that top six role. So if he gets that opportunity, he gets his chances, I think everything's going to go well for him. And also there was a signing of Kirill Semyonov, who is very familiar with Mikheyev as well. The fact that they signed him, I think they have a place for both of them on their team, and I hope that this is a good sticking point for them.
Jim, is there anything else to add on that argument for keeping Mikheyev, or have these two guys nailed it?
Well, they certainly nailed it in the sense that I think the Mikheyev is a great young player. Two thoughts. One is that I don't know what requested a trade means. I mean, given what Alex said about the hospital stay and Dubas actually watching more soccer than hockey because of just to capitulate, just to hang out with his friend. They're friends. How can they not be friends? And what does request a trade mean? Hey, I can't imagine Milstein just being intransigent about that. So I think it's a bit overstated. Second, the idea, I know I'm not supposed to mention the Canadians, but Mikheyev reminds me of Bob Gainey. He might be the best defensive player I've seen in a long time. He's just so fast. He anticipates the lanes. He knows it seems like he has a breakout every single game on defense when he's penalty killing. I think he's a good player. I think they'll keep him. I think the salary works for them. I can't imagine them not having him on their team. Plus, he's Toronto, right? This is the soup man. So, he fits into this community well.
Okay, so reasons that Mikheyev could go. Number one, there's only one soup man in Toronto, and that is Jack Campbell. No, that's okay. Still, the soup man works. We love both soup man. But and this goes, when I take the negative stance, everyone jumps on you that anti-Toronto and all those things. As you can tell, clearly not. But what I saw was that Toronto's got a ton of forwards in the system, and I still have questions on the blue line. And just how good are the pieces in the farm system? As Peter's last ranking showed, the team is 17th overall. Maybe you could get some prospects for Mikheyev because there are so many forwards. He really did struggle last year. That's why in my lineup projections, I had him starting on the fourth line as a speed line with Spezza and Robertson, and work his way from there to see where he could go, because I think the confidence really started to get to him at the end of last year. So if you could clear 1.65 million, doesn't sound like a lot, but at this point that could land you to minimum contracts that could fill some other voids. Mentioned some free agents that were still available out there, and as soon as I mentioned them, they were signed. So there's still a few pieces to gather, and that's why I would move on from Mikheyev, just on the simple fact that you've got so many forwards. So that's the two cases. Let's go with between Jim and Peter. Who do you go with? Do you keep Mikheyev or do you move on?
I think there are, arguments to both sides too. The fact that you have so many depth pieces already, players coming up in the farm system, Maple Leafs want to try and get their younger players more looks as well. You could try and trade him because, he is a valuable commodity. You could get a good return, maybe not, a substantial return, but maybe middle of the pack, middle six, solid third pairing defenseman, or even a couple good draft picks, mid rounds, maybe third, fourth. Maple Leafs got a few of those, got rid of them. But I think, it's something to consider. That's something, again, I would personally do given his upside and the way that he could bounce back. But it's always an option to have in the back of your head.
Jim, I think you're keeping him, right?
Yeah, well, no, not necessarily. I noted Alex wrote a tweet today on Liljegren about, he's the kind of guy who, when somebody else has him, he'll turn into something. And that's exactly what's going to happen if they trade him. But Alex makes a good point, or Peter makes a good point, that he will fetch something good in return. I'd trade him if you can get something in return and you don't see him as part of the system going forward. Then I say trade him.
All right, we'll leave it up to Mr. Dubas to decide. This is the Maple Leafs Lounge, brought to you by the Hockey Writers. Please like and subscribe to this YouTube channel and follow us on all your favorite social media platforms. Also coming out this week, rumors that out of Boston, we've mentioned Montreal and now Boston in the show. What is going on here? Anyway, out of Boston saying that Toronto has shown lukewarm interest in acquiring PK Subban from the New Jersey Devils. Now, Dubas has since had an interview and said he's not talked and doesn't care about any players on any other teams or any players that are free agents next season, which was an interesting way to put that. So he shot it down, but things can always change. Now, Peter, you kind of wrote an article. You said, look at all the factors around this, but it seemed like you were kind of leaning on maybe they should bring Subban to Toronto, if you can go from there.
Yeah, again, who wouldn't want PK Subban? I mean, given his dynamic speed, his ability to carry the play forward and be that transitional player, and he's got a booming shot from the point. I mean, we don't have that aside from Jake Muzzin. So obviously you have some positives that he could bring. You know, he went to the Stanley Cup Finals with the Nashville Predators, key player for them, and he's been on a decline since then with his production. But then again, the New Jersey Devils haven't been that great. But there's been, I mean, hearing the interest from PK Subban before Dubas shot it down, I mean, the Maple Leafs were looking to acquire him at the 2019 draft. I mean, there were talks that, you know, they were in on him. They were inquiring about him. So the fact that this came up kind of made some sense. But the main sticking point for me is, what are you going to do with the depth that we have already? I mean, this is probably the best defensive team that we have seen in, I don't know, even before the Austin Matthews era, before the 05-06 lockout. This team defensively was great. And you have Riley, you have Brody, Muzzin, Hall, Sandin, and then insert whoever you want on that bottom six right now. So if you were to bring in Subban, that means players are going to go out. Maybe Justin Hall, maybe he gets demoted down, but you're also looking at trading him Mikheyev. You're freeing up more cap space. Granted that 50% would have been retained. If you're the Maple Leafs and Kyle Dubas, you probably want to try and get another third team involved and retain more salary on top of this 4.5 that could be happening, right? So there's that to consider. I given the fact that even Timothy Liljegren is a player that I really hope would jump into the lineup and make an impact. If you were to do that and then bring in PK Subban, Liljegren is going to get pushed down. So you want to try and give those prospects and give players like him an opportunity instead of bringing another one in and messing with the success that you already had. So again, for me, I was like kind of in the middle, although it seemed more positive than negative. I was more in the middle of it because, you know, there are sides to every argument of why you should bring him and why you shouldn't.
So, Peter, you started that with who wouldn't want Subban, and I'm one of those that would not want Subban. He's expensive. He's on the decline. He's, you know, we like to look back on 2013 Norris Trophy and all those things. That was a long time ago. And I think the only way that I could see a Subban deal happening and for it to make any kind of sense, only if it's attached to Morgan Rielly. If Rielly is being moved out, which I fully expect that he has to be, I don't know how they're going to keep him in this new cap world without losing one of the core four, but maybe that happens. I don't know. But that's the only way I'm bringing Subban in. If Rielly is out, that doesn't mean Rielly goes to New Jersey. He could go somewhere else. But I only see a Subban deal happening to fill the void of Morgan Rielly. And other than that, I wouldn't really want him on the team. I think they're fine for that type of player right now. So that's the two pitches on this. So Jim and Alex, you guys play the general manager role. And Alex, you start. Are you keeping them or going away? Or are you going to try to trade for Subban, or are you walking away from the deal on that? And let's hear it.
Definitely more on your side for this one, Kevin. I like PK Subban a lot as a player. I think he did a lot for the city of Montreal when he was playing there, not just on the ice, but obviously with the community and everything. He's a big community guy. But I definitely wouldn't make the move for him unless Morgan Rielly was gone, because the way I see it, if you're keeping Morgan Rielly, and you're bringing in PK Subban, I don't really know how that improves the defensive core if you've got two guys that are kind of puck rushers and focus more on the offensive side of the game than the defensive side. And on the other hand, if they were to bring him in and there was no Morgan Rielly, then at least you've got Jake Muzzin and TJ Brody, who are both sound defensively and can play the left side, and then you can stick Subban in there to play the right side and the power play and everything. Other than that, that more or less sums up where I'm at right now. I don't really see a situation where it would make sense to trade for him and add that extra cap in there when they've already got Morgan Rielly. But if Rielly was gone and they were really struggling getting points from the back end, then in that case, I'd say maybe entertain a trade for Subban with salary retained. But yeah, as of right now, it'd have to be when Morgan Rielly's not in the picture.
Jim, I know you're a big community guy, and that's why I'm thinking you might want Subban in Toronto. So what's your verdict on this one?
I would want Subban in Toronto, but I don't think it's this year's move. I think it's a next year's move. It strikes me that his productivity is so low that he'll probably be 9 million. Even half of 9 million is more than I make in a month. So it's you can't bring him in. He makes no sense financially to bring him in now. He might make sense next year because Bogosian really, he was bought out by Buffalo. Duh. I mean, and then he turned around to be a good player. So now he's still going. So I like Subban. I'd like him as a neighbor. I agree that he makes a lot of sense in the community. I can also see him with Morgan Rielly there too, but not at his salary. I'd love to see Morgan Rielly on one side and Subban on the other. Duh. I mean, that would be just pushing it at him all the time. That said, I don't think he's this year's move.
And we now know that the Prof does not make 4.5 million in a month.
You probably wondered.
It's funny that Jim brought up the fact that it could be a next year move because he is a free agent after this. And if everything falls into place, and if they decide to let Morgan Rielly walk, PK Subban is going to be a really great option to replace that offensive player. So that's a really good point that he brought up as well.
And who knows, maybe that's when you get the hometown discount. That would work too. So on the show, we always ask for viewer feedback and comments on the articles that follow up. And there was a really great comment and some discussion on last week's article, and it was about Zach Hyman. And I think we might be guilty of this. So I'll read you the comment and we'll start the discussion from there. So the notion that Hyman's replacement has to be Hyman clone can be misleading. Hyman's standard of play last year is not easily matched. That's why he's enjoying a well-earned payoff in Edmonton to close out his career. I'm sure whoever takes a spot on the first line will be a solid hockey player without necessarily matching the bar Hyman set last year. Now, the response to that, and that was by DVM, who's provided lots of great comments on some articles lately. Thanks for that, DVM. Now, GCM Go Me responded, "You hit on an important point. Why does everyone seem to be talking about replacing Hyman with a Hyman clone? Certainly looking for some of what Hyman brings to the rink is a good starting spot, but that thought process can also act like a set of blinders. The more important aspect of this replacement is effectiveness in what and where Hyman's key roles were." Great ideas there, because everyone does want a Zach Hyman clone, but there's just no Zach Hyman clones out there. So which one of you guys wants to start on the replacement process of Hyman, but not phrasing it that way? Really, you're not going to find a Hyman. So how do you start in that replacement process?
I think if you're looking for a guy that can replace Zach Hyman, first and foremost, you just have to look for a guy who has that drive. And I think if you can find a guy who has that sort of drive, you can probably get away with sticking a multiple different types of players there. Because in the end, that is why we all love Zach Hyman the way we did, and why there might be this notion that we got to find someone who plays exactly like him. Because he was always out there. He was the first one in the corners. He was always creating space for Matthews and Marner and making their jobs way easier. And it's once, the offense started to come in later years, he became that much more special of a player. And I don't think the Leafs need to go out and look for a guy who plays the exact same way, exact same height, exact same weight, exact same everything. Like, we're not looking for another Zach Hyman to come in there, but we've talked about guys like Michael Bunting before, who he plays a bit of a pest role, and he's always the first one into the corners. He can score goals here and there. We've talked about a guy like Nick Ritchie, who doesn't play anything like Michael Bunting, but he's got shades of Zach Hyman in his game. He's got the size, he's got the bit of a power forward makeup. So in the end, that was a great point from DVM. And I think Leaf fans do sometimes get blinded by what Hyman was and feel the need that we need to look for someone who's the exact same as Hyman. But overall, I think Dubas did an admirable job in bringing in guys who sort of make up what Hyman was like as a player, but maybe not all in the same player, if that makes any sense.
No, it absolutely does. And I think the important point from GCM Go Me is when we're acting like we need Hyman, it's acting like a set of blinders. There's a lot of good hockey players that bring a lot of great skill to that top line if they get the opportunity, or anywhere in the top six, and it's filling that role. So we'll throw it over to you, Prof, with some thoughts on this one. Are we just talking about a clone, or should we be talking about what's going to make these lines click?
What I think about effectiveness, and I agree. The thing about Zach Hyman that endears him to us is that he's just like us. He is just a hardworking guy. And I mean, historically, we've had the concept of everyman, where the hero shares characteristics with us, the reader. And I like Hyman because he's what I hope I am. He's hardworking. He goes into the corners. He's dogged about stuff. I never said I was smarter than everybody else, but I have a PhD because I work so hard. I just work hard. And I like Hyman for that reason. So the clone part of Hyman that I think we should keep is we need somebody who will endear himself to the Maple Leafs fans, that the fans can relate to, that the fans can love. Because Mitch Marner, for as great a scorer he is, the fans don't like him that much because he has not endeared himself to the Toronto community. Hyman endeared himself to the Toronto community. And even this morning, and I'm guilty of it as well, I was thinking, maybe next year I should do a weekly update on how Hyman is doing in Edmonton. I mean, I know I probably won't because I know better. I'm not writing about Edmonton, but everybody loves Hyman. We need somebody to replace him who people love just as much as they loved Hyman. And I'm hoping Bunting is that guy.
Yeah, me too. And what's going to be cool when the Oilers play in Toronto on January 6th, which is my birthday. You can send presents now so they get here in time, guys.
Noted.
That there's going to be a standing ovation for him because we all loved his work ethic, and that'll gives me goosebumps thinking of that because it's my birthday and what you guys are going to send me. So Peter, final words on this one.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, would you love to clone Zach Hyman? Absolutely. But Zach Hyman is his own player. But the type of player that he is, every team has one. Every team has that in your face, the one to get it on the forecheck and set the tone for the shift. He's the kind of player that will win you a playoff series. I mean, in hindsight, we haven't won a playoff series with Zach Hyman, but he does make an impact. And it's funny that Alex mentioned the three players that Dubas brought in because they all bring something that Zach Hyman does, and it all is at a cheaper salary. So you're getting three separate players with different aspects into one Zach Hyman. So that was smart thinking to try and split the money up in that regard. But also, I'm going to keep pushing this and keep saying this. They already have a Zach Hyman in the system, and Matthew Knies, someone who's better, someone who's more offensive driven, someone who's got a better shot not going to get ahead of myself, but he looks promising what he's done so far. And the fact that he's going to take some time developing the college system right now, he's only going to get better. Maybe even has a chance to push for Team USA for the World Juniors. Maybe Leaf fans can get a better look at him. So players like him are going to come and go. You could always replace them. It's that, and again, it's like what Alex said before, it's the drive, it's that intensity, it's that factor that always sets the tone. And Maple Leafs have some of those players already, present and future. If they could find someone like that in free agency again, that's the whole package, so be it.
I apologize. It's January 5th that the Oilers are in Toronto. And so it's going to be an early birthday present for me for tickets to go to the game. Thanks, guys, for collecting that up for me. And on my birthday, they actually play the Canadiens. They better win that game.
That's going to be
So
fun.
is there extra pressure for us then? Like 2 sets of
Yes.
tickets now? Okay.
It's got to be
Yes.
a back-to-back win, though. Then.
Yeah. It's going to be great. Thanks, guys. Birthday gift. All right. Now, always the hot talker on this. And again, we thank everyone for sending in their comments and thoughts. And this got a debate going with Dubas being on the hot seat. And lots of different comments here on, again, it was GCM Go Me saying, let's hope so. The act of endorsing his core four immediately after yet another first round playoff loss was the figurative equivalent to strapping himself to the mast of a sinking ship. There's a lot longer there, but then some other things here. Looking at Peter's article on where the prospect pool is, having our prospect pool at 17 is a total joke and cannot be justified. That's by Gallagher Verg. And what else do we have here? It's he has had more than enough time to fix things, because I'm not going to say it was all there. There was some positives, people saying, well, he had to take over from Lou and Lou messed stuff up and all those things. So this guy says, this is Rob, says he has had more than enough time to fix things. He has not fixed anything and is too arrogant to admit the team's never-ending disappointment and failure. You can defend him all you want, but fact is they can't win with him and the Shano plan. So now, after that article, again, Dubas has made a public appearance, and he, you know what? He flat out said, the guy's a hockey fan first. He's smart. He knows what's going on here. And he knows that there's pressure. He knows the market that he's in, and he knows where things lie. And he said, we have not won the Stanley Cup, and that is the goal. And things for sure are heating up there. And he says, if they don't advance this season, then there will be organizational changes. Sounds like Dubas would almost be firing himself at this point. So guys, I know that this is kind of beating the dead horse at this point, but there's still a lot of fan frustration around this team carrying over from May 31st. And it's still pinned on Dubas. So where are you guys at this right now? And we'll start with Peter.
First point about Dubas protecting his core four. I mean, what kind of a general manager would you be if you didn't protect or stand up for your top four guys who are night in, night out producing for your team and putting up the points, earning the big bucks and doing their job? I know everyone's going to say, oh, well, they didn't perform in the playoffs. Yeah, no one else did unless you're named William Nylander or Alexander Kerfoot. And I know they're supposed to step up, and I get that. But if he didn't step up for his top four and said, yeah, our top four need to be better, then how's that going to look for Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews? And everybody's going to be like, oh, well, now that he said that, you know, Austin Matthews is going to dip for Arizona when he becomes a free agent. So it's a never-ending story when it comes to comments about the general manager and the play of the players. It's either yay, good, or nay, bad. Second of which, in regards to, I'm not taking this personally about the Maple Leafs being ranked 17th, but I mean, compared to the rest of the prospect pools, the other teams ahead of the Maple Leafs are deeper. I'm not being biased. If I was being biased, I would have the Maple Leafs number one, and I don't. So to me, having them in the middle of the pack with the players that they have and the potential, I think that's really great. And third, I mean, we've heard the same things over before. They're saying that Kyle Dubas really doesn't care. I mean, look at some of the clips and comments that he said during the Amazon Prime for All or Nothing commercial. It sounds like he cares. Sounds like he wants to win. Sounds like he's doing all the right things. So, and because of that, I'm just going to stop talking because I'm only here so I won't get fined.
Alex, I know last time you said that you're pinning this now on the players that had to perform. And it makes a lot of sense because he has addressed everything that he needs to address. But that's what a lot of people are saying, that it's his signature on those contracts in the core four that has essentially hamstrung this team. So there is blame to be put. And I think that's fine because it's his team and he's created it that way. And he's taken the responsibility on that if it doesn't succeed, it sounds like he fully thinks that he'll be out the door. And is that where we're at with this? Are we down to the last dance moment when it comes to the core four and Kyle Dubas?
There definitely is a little bit of a last dance element to this season in that sense, because truthfully, I don't know how the city of Toronto is going to handle another first round collapse if it happens, and it's scripted the same way that it has been in years past. Having said that, I'm still going to die on the hill that Dubas has pretty much done everything that he can to build a team that is competitive and can win a Stanley Cup. And I know the people out there, the people commenting will disagree, and that's fine. But, I think about that one point saying, yeah, he may have, put his trust into the wrong guys. But to that, I'll raise you, when he's in his negotiations with Mitch Marner and his negotiations with Austin Matthews, how is he supposed to predict that those guys 2 years from now are going to flake in the playoffs? That's my question. I don't think anybody, I remember before the playoffs happened this season, I had the Leafs winning the Stanley Cup because I truly did figure, and I don't always pin the Leafs to win the Stanley Cup. I'm not that kind of a biased fan, but I did truly believe that this was the year that they were going to get it done, if at all, because it was the year they had the easiest path to the Stanley Cup. They had a team that finished below 500 in the first round. And, everybody was kind of on the Maple Leafs hype train heading into the playoffs, and the players didn't show up. So, Dubas, like Peter said, what kind of GM would you be if you didn't stand up for your guys? And at the time that he signed those contracts, I don't think he had any way of predicting that these guys wouldn't be able to handle a first round playoff series. And if he did, I'm sure he wouldn't have signed them to those deals. So, I'm still going to die on that hill. I will criticize Dubas when he makes bad moves, and I will hold him accountable in that sense. But if the Leafs go out and it's scripted similar this year and the players don't show up and they fizzle out in the first round, Dubas probably will get canned, or if not someone else in the organization. And I will stand by the fact that I don't think it'll be fair, because I think they truly have done an admirable job in trying to build a team that would be competitive in the playoffs. But if it happens again, somebody's going. I don't know who, but somebody's going to be going.
Jim, I think that's the point too, is that how many times do you take the same build and try it in the playoffs when it hasn't been working? And this was an opportunity, and Dubas said it, where it sounds like there were some suggestions, as you said in your article. Sounds like there were a few people that sniffed around to see what they could get for one of those core four players. And there were trades that could have been made, but Dubas said the team would have been different, but he didn't think it would have been better. So different might be good at this point, because what's been happening is a first round disappointment for the last 5 years. So Jim, you've got the last word on this one.
Just a couple things. One is that I really was interested in the interview where Dubas had said that he'd lost his romance with the idea of core four. Sentiment was the word he used. I have no sentiment for the core four. He's a hockey player, or a hockey guy. He wants his team to win. He will trade the core four, which really flies in the face of where fans, I think, are coming from. They believe he's going to go with the core four no matter what, right? But I don't think that's the case. And that was a good thing to see. I have to believe that Dubas is still learning his job. That said, I'm with Alex. I think and Peter too, I think, agree. He's done everything he could. And I'm honestly gobsmacked. Every single year he puts a team together that's competitive. So, I'm I'm anxious to see what happens. Dubas will go on to get another job someplace else if he's canned here. It's so I'm always hopeful that the Maple Leafs will win. I believe they will win. Like Alex, I thought they would do really well last year. So I don't know the answer to that question. I think he's doing everything well. I have to say, I think it's a lot easier for general managers before him because he has to trade away prospects to Peter's point about the prospect list. He has to trade away prospects at trade deadline to find someone who'll push him over the top. Hence, that's why the prospects are not as good as he keeps losing him in these efforts to had John Tavares not been knocked out of the series, I'm thinking they'd still win. So it's just a really bad luck that they haven't gone on. And I don't think it's Dubas's fault at all. So I'm anxious to see. I know that I didn't give an answer to the question, but it's so contextual and so difficult to anticipate what's going to happen. And hockey is one of those bad bounce sports, worse than any other bounce sport I think there is. So it's a tough rule. But honestly, I think Dubas and Shanahan have done a great job. I love their ethos. I love their plans. I think they're doing really well. And sadly, they haven't much to show about it. And if they lose their jobs, somebody else will come and we'll write about them too.
This is his 8th season with the organization and 4th as general manager. So a lot of people would say that he's had his opportunity, and this is it, because you made your stand. You're not trading away the core 4 going into the season. This is it. And to be honest, I think it's going to be difficult for this team to even secure that playoff spot. Everyone's jumping past an 82 game regular season right now. And the fact that they are back in the Atlantic with Tampa, with Boston, with Florida, like the list goes on. And Ottawa's much better. Montreal was in the final last year. Like, this is a tough division to play in. So we can't be going, oh, they got to make it past the first round of playoffs. They got to make the playoffs and go from there. So it's going to be a challenge, but I think Dubas has written this one off as he's doing the old Shania Twain song with "You Dance with the One That Brought You," and he's all in on this setup and live and die by the sword. So there we go, 2 cliches in one sentence.
Yeah,
that's the Maple Leaf Lounge for you. So that is all the time we have for this week. We hope you enjoyed the show. Please like and subscribe, and also send positive vibes out to the Toronto universe for your Blue Jays. And also, training camp's right around the corner. These guys are almost back. Can't wait. We'll be here to tell you all about it. Until next week, that's it from the Maple Leafs Lounge.